وألحقني بالصالحين واجعل لي لسان صدق في الآخرين واجعلني من ورثة جنة النعيم واغفر لأبي إنه كان من الضالين ولا تخزني يوم يبعثون يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم وأزلفت الجنة للمتقين وبرزت الجحيم للغاوين وقيل لهم أين ما كنتم تعبدون من دون الله هل ينصرونكم أو ينتصرون فكبكبوا فيها هم والغاوون وجنود إبليس أجمعون قالوا وهم فيها يختصمون تالله إن كنا لفي ضلال مبين إذ نسويكم برب العالمين وما أضلنا إلا المجرمون فما لنا من شافعين ولا صديق حميم فلو أن لنا كرة فنكون من المؤمنين إن في ذلك لآية وما كان أكثرهم مؤمنين وإن ربك لهو العزيز الرحيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى يوم الدين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. It's a pleasure being here. Alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed us with another night to remember our Maulana and our Master Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And through reading his letters and understanding what he has written in these letters, inshallah, we can take these life lessons into our own life and practice, inshallah, what Imam Hussein alayhi salam has written in his letters. Because the best way someone can understand what someone means and who they are is by what they say and what they write. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam has written many letters. The letters that we are focusing on are the letters before the event of Karbala. There are letters that he wrote to Muawiyah, for example, different letters that he has written. But we are focusing on tonight the letter that he wrote to Muhammad ibn Hanafiyyah, which is his brother, which is the son of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And therefore, we understand that Muhammad ibn Hanafiyyah was a valuable person, a great person. He went through the battles of Jamal, Siffin, and Nahrawan with Imam Ali alayhi salam. And some ask, why did Muhammad Hanafiyyah was he not present in Karbala? Some say give different valid reasons. They say that he had a valid reason. One is that they say that he was sick, he could not participate. The second was that Muhammad Hanafiya was excused from participating in Karbala, in the event of Karbala, and that maybe Imam Hussein wanted him to stay in Medina for different purposes. So we see this letter, and in the following nights, it is a longer letter. We're going to talk about the first section of this letter tonight, inshallah, tomorrow night. Inshallah, in person, we'll see each other and explain the other parts of the letter tomorrow night, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hada ma awsi bihi al-Husayn ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib ila akhihi Muhammad al-Ma'ruf ibn al-Hanafiyyah. Blessings and our prayers and blessings be upon all, inshallah, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So we see that this is a letter that Imam Hussein, after writing Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and it's good to write in our letters, we start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's good to start our actions with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Actually, there's traditions that talk about the fact that there's khair, there's goodness, or that things will be effective if you start with, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So this is what Imam Hussein has given advice to his brother Muhammad Hanafiya. أن الحسين عليه السلام يشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. That Imam Hussein عليه السلام, the first actual sentence in this letter, he starts with bearing witness that there is none other worthy of worship than Allah. Allah is only worthy of worship. We understand from this that the movement of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is a Tawheedi movement, is a movement that is for God, and that Imam Hussein alayhi salam wants help from God, and that everyone will return to God. So therefore, everything about Karbala is about God. And if you take away that God, that religious part or spiritual part of Karbala, there's not much understanding that you can have of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's movement and what happened in Karbala. And what gave Imam Hussein alayhi salam the strength, the patience to endure is his connection to God. So therefore, you see that Imam Hussein alayhi salam starts his sentence and starts his letter with Allah. Wahdahu la sharika la. That there's unity, there's tawheed, unicity of Allah, and there's no partnership in him. So when we look at one of the important aspects of a Muslim's life and of a person that is attributed to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and during this Muharram, what we're trying to get out of it, the entire goal of this aza is what? Why are we even here? The entire purpose of aza is to get close to God. The entire purpose is to reform ourselves, change ourselves, make ourselves better, complete ourselves, and to connect better and stronger to Allah. That these processions that we have, these majalis that we have, they are full of our sins being washed and rinsed, that we will be cleansed and cleansed, and our barriers will be removed so that we can connect more to Allah. So we understand to be Husseini, to be a follower of Imam Hussein, to read the letters of Imam Hussein, our master, our Mawla, first talked about God. And that is what we have in the traditions. Awwaluddin ma'rifatu. The first and foremost thing in religion is his knowledge, is God's knowledge. And that is why we understand that Imam Hussein alayhi salam starts this letter with God's name, starts this letter talking about that he testifies and he bears witness to Allah and his Tawheed. One of the biggest differences we have with others that are not religious is that our life should be full of God, should be full of belief in God, practicing religion, should be full of connecting to God, remembering God, and understanding God correctly. Many of us, we come to some of these processions of and commemorations of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Ashura, and we forget the entire purpose is that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is an imam, the imam that Allah has sent for us, a guide that God has sent for us so that he can show us the path, so that he can show for us how a person that truly understands God, how a person that truly has knowledge of God, how is he supposed to behave? And you understand that through challenges, it is when a person shows themselves. And how Imam Hussein, being a slave of God, being a servant of God, was the most patient, was the most strong amid all these calamities and trials that he faced, especially the trial that tonight we're going to mention, and his Jihadul Akbar, as many say, the loss of his great son, beautiful son, Ali Akbar, his 18-year-old son. You know, how Imam Hussein was patient when this happened in front of him. So, as followers of Ahlul Bayt, alayhi salam, we're going to have three things in this letter, that three of them we will mention briefly, inshallah, tonight. One is Tawheed, that Imam Hussein alayhi salam talks about and bears witness to. The second is وَأَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ, that he bears witness that Prophet Muhammad is God's slave and then his messenger. Very interesting that Prophet Muhammad is very much in many texts introduced as a servant and slave of God, then a messenger of God. Ja'a bil haqq, in the letter it says, min indil haqq, that Prophet Muhammad came with the truth, min indil haqq, from the truth. He came, it is true that he was a prophet. He came with the truth, from the truth. So you see that Imam Hussein talks about the origin first, then the medium, the path, and then وَأَنَّ الْجَنَّةَ وَالنَّارَ حَقٌّ. And he bears witness that heaven and hell are reality. You know, it's very important for us many times throughout the day to bear witness and to remind ourselves that these are absolute truths. God, the belief in God, the belief in God's messenger, which is, the origin, the medium, and the destination. These are all true, that soon all of us will be in the hereafter. And it is true, hellfire and heaven are true, he says, Imam Hussein. وَأَنَّ السَّاعَةَ آتِيَةٌ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهَا. And the sa'ah, the time that will come, the day of judgment that is coming, there is no doubt in it. There is no doubt in it. And this is strengthening, his followers, that, if you basically follow Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you will be given good places in paradise because you believe, you have a firm belief in paradise. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْعَثُ مَنْ فِي الْقُبُورِ. And that Allah will resurrect, verily resurrect, he who is in the grave. So these three important themes and these three important concepts we're going to talk about tonight. And we're going to talk about how to incorporate this in our lives. And how deep, and ask our questions this tonight. How deep are these three principles ingrained in our lives? Are we a Muslim only by name? Or is Tawheed truly ingrained in my life? Is the messengership and the message of the Prophet Islam ingrained in my heart? My entire life revolves around the message. And do I truly believe in the hereafter? Is it like how Imam Hussein says, La rayba fiha, and that it gets manifested in the life of a believer? So these are three important principles that should be manifested inside a Muslim. Muslim should be expressing these things, should be exhibiting these things throughout the day. That when you look at them, when you think of them, when you see a believer, you see that connection to God. When you see that believer, you see his conviction to the message and to what Prophet Muhammad, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, truly brought for us. That dictates how he lives. And that a mu'min, a believer, truly has eagerness for heaven and has fear for the hellfire. And we look that these are principles that makes Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his soldiers and his companions, you see, they all manifested these traits. So if we want to be like our master, and the purpose, obviously, Aza is good, but it should have a purpose. It should be pushing us towards these things, because Imam Hussein's movement was the movement of Tawheed. His battle was a battle of Tawheed against shirk, against polytheism, against God's disobedience. His fight was over Rasalat and messengership, to preserve Islam how it really was, and to fight against those that try to change it and try to corrupt it. His fight was against those that believed and were locked down in the world, that they can only cling on to things in this material world, that his revolution was the revolution of leaving this world, that this world is not important for me, that I want the hereafter, because this is what God wants, and God has promised me the hereafter, and that this world and the material are for those of the dwellers of the dunya. I am not Ahl dunya. I'm not a person that is clinged on to this world. So we have to look and engage in our own lives. How do we understand God? How is God applied in our own lives? How do we understand messengership, and how do we understand hereafter? When you look at Tawheed in God, yes, there's theological debates, about God, unity in essence and unity in attributes. But one of the most important things that we have to remind ourselves to become a true Muslim, a Husseini Muslim, is that we believe in a Tawheed al-Af'ali, meaning that every action, that nothing in this world can have any effect or do anything except of the power that it has been given by God. Basically meaning that all actions, all movements, all effects are originated in his essence. Everything is from God. We understand that whatever is happening is from God. We have to believe this in a way that, yes, we have free will at the same time, but we truly believe that Allah is our Rabb. See, the problem is that many people, they believe in a God. It's very weak. They believe God is a creator and that God has just left them alone. But we as Muslims, any action that happens in this world, we ask this question, did God allow it or did God not allow it? Is it in part of his lordship? Is he in charge? Is he in command? When you look at nature and you see how God is in command of nature, of planets, of different systems that we have in this world, you see how organized it is, how beautiful it is. Yes, he is in charge. And in the same way he is in charge in giving permission for humans, but at the same time, yes, if evil happens, he has given them permission and free will. But everything at the end, we realize it is from Allah, and that he is wise and he wants khair for us. So there's no absolute reason to become worried. One of the effects of this, you see, in the day of Ashura, I ask you this question: was Imam Hussein alayhi salam worried? The night of Ashura before the battle, was Imam Hussein worried? Absolutely not. Because he had true belief in God. He had true tawakkul. He had true reliance on God. And that is what we can learn from Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And you see in his letter that Imam Hussein alayhi salam had true reliance on God, that he was absolutely calm, that he did not have fear of creation, because he truly believed that all power is in the hands of God, and that Allah is wise and he determines things according to each person's test, that everything from God is khair, everything is good, even a battle of 100 against 10,000 or 30,000, 72 against 30,000. This is khair for me. This is good for me. This is going to elevate me in rank. This is an opportunity for me to show, am I a servant of Allah? Will I submit to him or will I not submit to him? So this is one of the most important lessons that we can learn from Ashura, that Allah is our commanding this universe, and that we believe that all aspects of our lives go back to Him. It doesn't mean that I don't try hard. It doesn't mean that I don't plan well. It means that I look at this life in a different way. I look at it with a Tawheedi lens. I begin to witness God's hand in everything. As you have from Imam Ali alayhi salam, when a person reaches the stations, like Imam Hussein alayhi salam, أَذُمَ الْخَالِقْ فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ فَصَغُرَ مَا دُونَهُ فِي أَعْيُنِهِمْ. The greatness of the Creator is seated in their heart. Allah is Azim, Allah is great. And so everything else appears small in their eyes. Everything else besides God is small. Are we honestly, when we look at ourselves, is everybody else seem great and that we are fearing everybody else? We're fearing the creation? Or are we fearing the Creator? Or are we understanding the adumat and the magnificence of God? What does the magnificence of God cause you? When you say that God is Azim and Azum al-Khaliq, that the Creator is great, because you see, for example, you see the sun, and how many earths can fit inside the sun. You see how vast it is, and what type of energy it is. They can't even get close to the sun, you'll melt. How powerful the sun is, that is, sustaining life on earth here. So you should understand that's Azim. Now, what about the Creator of the sun? What about the Creator of the solar system? What about the Creator of our galaxy? What about the Creator of galaxies? So understand that Allah is Almighty. He has created and is sustaining all of this. And then from this, you understand that you should be humble, because the natural human emotion to magnificence, to greatness, is to be humble. When you see the kingdom, the vast kingdom of Allah, of God, you become humble. And you see that He is the Lord of all of creation. So therefore, when you live your life, and I'm telling myself this, you live your life with God, that you have ma'iyat with Allah. You're with Him because you believe that you're getting your existence from Him second by second. You believe that the entire universe is getting their existence from Him second by second. And you understand that without God's existence, everything would vanish and disappear. So therefore, you begin after a while, when we worship Allah in a way, that you start witnessing this and you start seeing this with your heart. You understand Tawheed with your mind, but you witness it with your heart. As Imam Ali alayhi salam in the famous tradition, سئل أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام فقيل يا أخا رسول الله هل رأيت ربك? Have you ever seen your Lord? The Imams, of course, of Ahlul Bayt would always discourage people, because some, as we have in Sunni tradition, say you will see your Lord. They're always discouraging, saying that we will never see our Lord. And the Quran has this, لَن تَرَانِي, you'll never see me. And we understand that witnessing God will be metaphysical in the hereafter. It won't be physical. So then he says, فَقَالَ وَكَيْفَ أَعْبُدُ مَنْ لَمْ أَرَهُ? How can I worship who I can't see? I see Him. لَمْ تَرَهُ الْعُيُونُ بِمُشَاهِدَةِ الْعِيَانِ وَلَكِنْ رَأَتْهُ الْقُلُوبُ بِحَقَائِقِ الْإِيمَانِ. I don't see Him through eyes. I see Him through the hearts, from the reality of Iman. I see Him. So you see Ashura also a mystical battle that Imam Hussein had, a mystical experience, because Imam Hussein alayhi salam is seeing God, and he very clearly says that what makes this easy for me is that all of this is in front of God's eyes. God, he really truly believed that God is watching him at that moment, that the entire day he is observing him. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam says this makes in tradition attributed to him, says that this makes it easier for me. Brothers and sisters, when we have trials and difficulties, when we live our lives, we have to bear witness that Allah is watching us with conviction, and that He is taking care of us, and that we are not alone, that we have a Mawla, But those that disbelieve, they do not have a Mawla, they do not have Allah. So we have this unlimited source of power, or power itself, that is helping us. Then why do we have anxiety? Then why are we afraid? Then why are we worried? It will all be okay because Allah has brought it and He's testing you with it. And inshallah, it's khair. As long as you understand Him, as long as you have ma'rifat of Him, as long as you worship only Him, everything will be okay. In the dua of Arafah, Imam Hussein, look at the irfan of Imam Hussein, look at the mysticism of Imam Hussein, that when he talks to Allah in dua Arafah, Mata ghibta, when were you hidden, Allah? Allah for Imam Hussein was not hidden. When Ali Asghar alayhi salam, we talked about last night, is taken away from him and Harmala murders him, Allah is not hidden. Imam Hussein is very clearly seeing God, clearer than we can see the sun, because it's from his spirit, from ilm al-huduri, from knowledge by presence, he is witnessing God. And therefore it's easier for him. And then you see that when Adi Akbar is martyred, and tonight we'll see he's witnessing Allah, brighter than the sun. Mata ghibta hatta tahtaj ila dalil. When were you hidden that you need a proof? Yadullah alayk, to prove towards you. Why do we even need to prove God? Imam Hussein alayhi salam is saying, you prove something that there is doubt. You prove a being that you don't see. Do you prove to yourself that you exist? No. So you understand the fitri and innate belief of Tawheed of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You see the depth and the mysticism and irfan of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, that he is battling through in Karbala with absolute belief in God, without absolute witnessing, what we call this a Tawheed ash-shuhudi, with living life and witnessing God. And feel just how you say, not with the eyes, but just how you feel your own existence right now. You feel that you are one. You understand that you're one, even though how many cells do you have? How many different systems do you have in your body? How many different body parts do you have? But you understand you are one. You understand you exist. In the same way, you feel the presence of Allah the entire time, and you understand that you feel His presence. And this comes through worship. This comes through practice. This comes from learning from Imam Hussein, because he has done this. If you want to see how is this done, ask Imam Hussein, connect to Imam Hussein. He has understood God completely as how a human being should understand God, how a human being can. Obviously, there's still separation from humans' understanding of God to God Himself, to understand God Himself from Himself. That's still different. Imam Hussein understands God. So if you want ma'rifatullah, approach this family, approach the Prophet of Islam, approach Ahlul Bayt, approach your master Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and you will witness Allah, you will see Allah. The second part is Imam Hussein alayhi salam, after talking about messengership and living our lives in a way that we are always looking at what God has commanded us. We are looking at the hadith of the Holy Prophet of Islam and the rulings that our ulama have derived from the hadith, from the sunnah of the Prophet and Imams. That these are the guidelines for our lives. That they will tell us what is halal, what is haram, what we should do and what we shouldn't do. This is the guidelines for us to reach completion. That our entire life we're occupied with saying, what should I do now? Is this allowed? Will God be satisfied with me now if I do this action? Or will God not be satisfied? Those that are of the highest, I saw this, those that are of the highest in ubudiyat, in worship of God, are those that understand the law the best, understand the instructions the best. They abide by the sayings of the Prophet and Imams the most. What is the purpose? If you have all this knowledge, all the history of the Imams, everything, but you keep breaking and committing sin, and you forget about your obligations to yourself, to your Lord, your obligations to your society, commit haram, you commit things that you're not sure is it halal or haram, and you never ask, never committed to asking because it's not that important for you. But those that it is very important for them, and they're mutadayyin, they're religious, but then they have, the highest of stations. And we see here from the letter of Imam Hussein bearing witness to the risalat of Prophet Muhammad. Now at the end, Imam Hussein alayhi salam bears witness to heaven and hell and to the day of judgment, and that the fact that we will be raised from the graves. This is a reality that we have to remind ourselves, because a person gets used to it in this world. A person forgets, becomes neglectful. Sometimes he forgets, he thinks life is just it. You're just so occupied with work and the duties that we have that sometimes we forget that we're going to die. We have a eternity in front of us. Even Allama Tabatabai, they say in class, but sometimes just stop class and just remind people, his students, that we have an abad in front of us. We have an eternity in front of us. So eternity, Imam Hussein is saying, Al-Jannah wa nar haq. For us as lovers of Imam Hussein, inshallah, this carries a lot of weight for us, that our master and Mawla is writing letters like this, that he is talking about the origin, the path and the destination. Imam Hussein is fighting, as we said, against those that worship the world, those that are clinged on and fooled by the world. That he is in this world as if he's not in this world. He's just thinking of the hereafter and building the hereafter. So we understand that from the hadith that we have, how Imam Hussein reminds us of death. That we have, وَجْعَلِ الْمَوْتِ نَصْبَ عَيْنَيْكَ, or some say نُصْبَ عَيْنَيْكَ. That the Prophet of Islam tells Abu Dhar, take death in front of your eyes. Nasba, or nus, I think it should be nas or nusba عَيْنَيْكَ, in front of your eyes. Keep death as a reminder for you. At any time, we can die. As our teacher, Sheikh Ahmad al-Mushtahidi, kept saying that, what happens if Allah were to take away our lives right now? We've seen many people in these last, 1.5 years have passed away. We never expected them to. And for us, this is a maw'adah, may God bless their souls. This is a maw'adah, advice for us that any second we can die. What will we do? We only had one chance to live, brothers and sisters. We had one chance to live. And I say, this is it. This is all you have brought in for the hereafter. How much time did I give you? How many years did I give you? Telling myself, this is all you brought for me? Then you see, it's the Yawm al-Hasr. You see some people, they gave everything they had. The Hadrat Abbas, you see, in the traditions, it has all the martyrs. With the high station that they have, they'll be regretting, they'll see the station of Hadrat Abbas and they wish they had that station. Some that had given everything they had for Allah. So you see that another very important part of our lifestyle, of the way that we live as a Husseini, someone that's connected to Imam Hussein, is that we're reminded of the hereafter all the time. And this gives us that encouragement to work, to do khair, to do good deeds. Ibn Jundab, Imam Salih alayhi salam, will end with this hadith. Imam Salih alayhi salam tells Ibn Jundab, companion, Al-khayru kulluhu amamak. All of good is in front of you. All of good in Tuhaf al-Uqur. All of good is in front of you, Ibn Jundab. As if this world, there's nothing, there's no khair. All good is in front of you in the hereafter. وَإِنَّ الشَّرَّ كُلُّهُ أَمَامَكَ. All of evil is in front of you. Like as if whatever befalls us in this world is nothing. And it is absolutely nothing, because anything compared to infinite is nothing. Eternity is in front of you. All of good is in front of you. Qualitative, quantitative good and evil is in front of you. وَلَن تَرَى الْخَيْرَ وَالشَّرَّ إِلَّا بَعْدَ الْآخِرِ. You won't even see khair and shar until the hereafter. This isn't even classified as good or evil. These things are so small compared to the hereafter. This is how Imam Hussein, with these beliefs, the difference, how many different times his body was hit with swords, and how it ripped his armor, his shirt. and how strong Imam Hussein alayhi salam was. Why? Because I'm sure that he was reminded that evil, good and evil are in front of you. This is nothing. Al khayru kulluhu fil jannah. Then the Imam says, all of good is in heaven. Wa sharru kulluhu fil nar. لأنهما, then he says, al baqiyat. All of good is in heaven. All of evil is in the hellfire. Why? Because al baqiyat, it will last forever. But what is in this world, however much Imam Hussein alayhi salam is tested on that day of Ashura, it will pass. And that is what gives him his strength and makes him of the strongest of people and an unstoppable person. You know that Imam Hussein at the end, he was all alone. Even Ali Asghar has been martyred. And he walks towards or charges towards an ocean of soldiers, of an army. 10,000, 20,000, all alone, courageous, brave. Why? Because he does not see this as shar. He does not see this as evil. He sees that the evil is the hellfire. He sees khair as the akhirah, as in heaven. So inshallah, we can learn from this letter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and talk more about this letter. Inshallah, we'll be following, in person and also online the next following night, inshallah. So again, we read in this letter to Muhammad Hanafiya, أن الحسين يشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. Hussein bears witness that there is no one worthy of worship but Allah, وحده لا شريك له, and he believes in his unity, that there's no partnership in him. وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله, and that Muhammad, اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد, is truly God's slave and his messenger. جاء بالحق من الحق. Tonight, it is the night of Imam Hussein's greatest test. And each community and culture, they have different nights for different martyrs. But tonight, we're going to be talking about the son of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Ali ibn al-Hussein. They say that all shrines have 4 corners. But the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam has 6 corners. It's God's will that Imam Hussein alayhi salam would be buried next to his son Ali Akbar. That's why there's 6 corners. Remember, when you do ziyarah of Imam Hussein in Karbala, you say, salam, go to this other corner and do a specific salam to Ali Akbar. He has his own, shrine that's connected to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But the problem is this, is that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, his son Ali Akbar, his body is cut into pieces. That is the problem. That grave doesn't have to be too big, doesn't have to be too large, because they cut Ali Akbar irban into pieces in front of Imam Hussein. A person came and he was reciting the musibat of Ali Akbar in front of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the shrine of Imam Hussein, and they told him, basically, this is not appropriate. If you want to recite Ali Akbar's musibat, move the shrine of Imam Hussein somewhere else. It's not appropriate because of that connection that Imam Hussein alayhi salam has to his son, to right in front of him mention the detailed musibat of Ali Akbar. لم يزل, the narrator says, يتقدم رجل من أصحابه فيقتل حتى لم يبقى مع الحسين إلا أهل بيته. Each man of the followers of Imam Hussein continued to go forward and be killed until there remained with Hussein alayhi salam the members of his own house. فتقدم ابنه علي ibn al-Hussein, the Maqtal says, and came forth was his son Ali ibn al-Hussein. وأمه ليلى بنت أبي مرة, and his mother is Layla, the daughter of Abu Murrah ibn Urwa ibn Mas'ud al-Thaqafi. Ya Allah, who did they murder? Who did they murder? وَكَانَ مِنْ أَسْبَحَ النَّاسِ وَجْهًا. He was of the most handsome of the men of his times. They say, أَشْبَهُ النَّاسِ خَلْقًا وَخُلْقًا وَمَنْتَقًا. He was the most similar to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa in terms of looks, in terms of speech, in terms of disposition, akhlaq. He was very similar to the Prophet of Islam. And that is, when I was thinking sometimes how difficult it is. Ali Asghar, his martyrdom is extremely tragic because he was a baby, he was an infant. But he hadn't reached the perfection. He had the potential to reach and become a complete human being, yes. But Ali Akbar had reached that. There's a difference when something is bil quwwa and something is bil fi'l. Ali Akbar had reached, this is from my own humble knowledge, I might be wrong, but Ali Akbar had reached that full potential. Ali Asghar, it was oppression, yes, he hadn't reached it yet, it's the oppression of a child. But when it comes to Kamal and perfection, he had reached it. From these martyrs, besides Imam Hussein and Hazrat Abbas, the Kamal of Ali Akbar, how perfect he was, how beautiful he was, and how dear he was to Imam Hussein. And the more perfect someone is, those of you that are parents, the more perfect your kid is, the more great he is in everything that he does, the more it hurts you when something happens, God forbid. This is how Imam Hussein felt. That the absolute for him, the sign of perfection, this child is like Rasulullah, is taken away from him. وَكَانَ مِنْ أَسْبَحِ النَّاسِ وَجْهًا وَلَهُ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِضْعَ عَشْرَ سَنَةٍ, around 20 years age, or 19 years, 20 years of age. And he came out to the army. Ali Akbar came. Ya Allah, because of Ali Akbar, answer our hawa'ij. Many of us, these viewers, listeners, have hawa'ij. Ya Hussein, we know how dear your Ali Akbar is. Because of your Ali Akbar, because of your Ali Akbar, answer our du'as, inshallah. Have our du'as be answered. You have honor in the eyes of Allah. Take these hawa'ij we have to Allah and get them answered. أنا علي ibn الحسين ibn Ali, نحن وبيت الله أولى بالنبي. These are the last words of Ali Akbar. Ali Akbar is still alive right now. A few nights from now, a few days from now, Ali Akbar will be martyred. Let's listen to his poetry while he's alive. أنا علي ibn الحسين ibn Ali, نحن وبيت الله أولى بالنبي. تالله لا يحكم فينا ابن الدعي. By Allah, the son of the haram, not be able to, cannot judge us. أضرب بالسيف أحامي عن أبي. I will strike my sword in defense of my father. By Allah, the son of the spurious son will not judge us. I will strike with my sword in defense of my father. ضرب غلام هاشمي قريشي. I will strike the blow of a Hashemi Qurayshi. So then we see Ali Akbar alayhi salam. We see he comes to the battlefield, and there are different people coming, and there's a battle. He begins to attack. The Kufans were afraid to kill him. He has a very courageous fight, a courageous battle. Murra ibn Munqadh says, may the felonies of the Arabs come on me if he gets past me, doing the same as he has done, if I do not deprive him of his mother of him. Ali Hussein alayhi continued to attack the army. He's the son of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, grandson of Imam Ali alayhi salam, continued to attack. Then very tragically, Murra ibn Munqadh comes and stabs Ali Akbar. He was struck down, and the enemy fell upon him. They gathered around him, and the maqta says, cutting him with his sword. Ja al-Hussein, may we be sacrificed for you, Hussein, during that time. Imam Hussein is coming towards Adi Akbar. Adi Akbar is the last moments of his life. Hatta waqafa alayhi, he stood over him. How does a father look over his son? فَقَالَ قَتَلَ اللَّهُ قَوْمًا قَتَلُوا. May Allah kill those people that have killed you. Ya bunayya, ya bunayya, my son. Ma ajarahum ar-Rahman. How foolhardy they are and what jur'ah they had against the merciful and violating the sacredness of the family of the apostle. May Allah be pleased with him and his family. ثم قال على الدنيا بعدك العفا. His eyes filled with tears. Imam Hussein says, there will be dust on the world after you, Adi. As if to say, according to this world, I am ruined. You have taken everything away from me. You have taken my Adi Akbar away from me. May there be dust on the world after you. فخرجت زينب أخت الحسين. What is Zainab going to say to Imam Hussein alayhi salam? How far must she come through all these armed swords and armies to rush towards to beat Imam Hussein? What is she going to say to Imam Hussein? خرجت زينب أخت الحسين مسرعة تنادي. She was rushing and hurrying. I don't know how many times did Lady Zainab fall down and stand up. Fall down and stand up. It's difficult to run with an abaya. It's very difficult to run with an abaya. How did she run and reach Imam Hussein that fast? While Imam Hussein is standing in front of his son and then saying that may the world be ruined. Zainab comes alayhi salam, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, sister of Imam Hussein, peace upon him, came hurrying, crying, Ya Ukhayya, my brother. Wabna Ukhayya, my nephew. She came and threw herself on her dead nephew. وجاءت حتى أكبت عليه. She threw herself on the body of Adi Akbar. فأخذ الحسين برأسها فرد إليها. So Imam Hussein raised her head and had her go back to the tent. And then he told the sons of Bani Hashim, فقال احملوا أخاكم O Bani Hashim, come and take your brother. Maybe it's too difficult for Imam Hussein to take the dead body of his son. احملوا Bani Hashim, or some say that many people, Ayatollah Bahjat says this, he says maybe the reason for احملوا أخاكم is that Hazrat Ali Akbar was cut into pieces, so it's not the job of one person, it's the job of many. So to come Bani Hashim and carry your brother back. They carried him back, put him before the tent which they had been fighting, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam is left without his Ali Akbar, one of the greatest jihads of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. May peace be upon you, Ali Akbar. May peace be upon you, Ya Hussein ibn Ali. Ya Allah, we ask you, because of the tests of Imam Hussein, the tests of patience of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we ask you for all of those that are sick right now, especially children, for all those that are not fed, that are suffering, that are starving, that are hungry, that are oppressed, all these children, inshallah, to give them relief, inshallah. Ya Allah, we ask you, our children, inshallah, to give them guidance, to give them sustenance, to give them rizq, to give them protection, inshallah. Ya Allah, we ask you, because of the honor of Ali Akbar, inshallah, give us ziyarat of Imam Hussein repetitively, inshallah. Ya Allah, we ask you to accept our majalis, to forgive the sins of the marhumeen, inshallah, to give shafa of those that are sick. Some of our ulama are great speakers for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. They're sick right now. I saw pictures of them. They're not in good condition, one of these speakers I know. Give them, inshallah, shafa. Ya Allah, we ask you that we can be, inshallah, of those that remember Allah throughout the day, inshallah. The Tawheed is ingrained in part of us. That we live life with Allah, we live life with witnessing Allah, inshallah. that her entire life is full of following the message of Prophet Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Her entire life is for the Akhirah, and that we bear witness that Jannah and Nar, heaven and the fire, are haqq, inshallah. We will be with our Imam Hussein, inshallah, in the hereafter. May Allah expedite the return of our holy Imam. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ahli bayti at-tayyibin at-tahirin.
Heaven is opening up, Hussein. Oh, Karbala. I left my heart in Karbala. From Karbala, Karbala, Karbala to Karbala, Karbala, Karbala. I left my heart in Karbala. The hand of God that nurtures the young, the hand of God that nurtures the young, speaking for Allah, you were the tongue, separating his right from the wrong, elevated in Karbala. The hand of God that nurtures the young, speaking for Allah, you were the tongue, separating his right from the wrong, elevated in Karbala. From Karbala, Karbala, Karbala to Karbala, Karbala, Karbala. I left my heart in Karbala. From Karbala, Karbala, Karbala to Karbala, Karbala, Karbala. I left my heart in Karbala. The hand of God that nurtures the young, the hand of God that nurtures the young, speaking for Allah, you were the tongue, separating his right from the wrong, elevated in Karbala. The ship that sails with me through the waves, and whoever aboard your ship is safe, immune from the punishment from the grave. Whoever aboard you in Karbala. When will we be taking Ya Hussein? When will we be taking Ya Hussein? When under your dome will I breathe again? From Najaf will I walk to Karbala. From Karbala, Karbala, Karbala to Karbala, Karbala, Karbala. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
ورجاي ذخري وذخيرتي في آخرتي ودنياي. الإمام الحسين عليه سلام الله، زيارة مني ونيابة عن والدي وعن إخواني وأخواتي وعن جميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات قربة إلى الله تعالى. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلت ولعن الله أمة ظلمت ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن. بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم، وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم.